Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth webinar in NAPSA series entitled NAPSA Presents Experience from the Field. My name is Andy Gray, and I'm the director of NAPSA, or the North American Primate Sanctuary Alliance. NAPSA is a coalition of the leading accredited primate sanctuaries who collectively care for close to 800 apes and monkeys rescued and retired from biomedical research, the entertainment industry, and the pet trade. In the years between our biennial in-person NAPSA workshops, we're always looking for ways to continue the helpful conversations and information sharing that the workshops are known for. And that's where this webinar series was born. Our past NAPSA Experience from the Field webinars have been on the topics of volunteer programs with Catherine Dunham of Project Chimps, facilities upkeep with Mark Johanan and Mark Christensen of Save the Chimps, and starting a sanctuary garden program with Erica Vessels of Center for Great Apes. If you missed any of those past webinars in the series or just want to refresh your memory on what was shared, you can still watch those recordings by going to NAPSA's Facebook page and clicking on events and then past events. And today's recording will live there as well. There are more webinars to come in the future, so I encourage everyone to stay engaged with NAPSA on our email list. You can sign up for that on primatesanctuaries.org or by following us on social media. We're Primate Sanctuary here on Facebook and NAPSA Primates on Instagram, and I'll drop those links into the chat during the webinar so that you'll have those. So today we are joined by two veterinarians from Chimp Haven, Dr. Jackson, Director of Veterinary Care, and Dr. Coleman, clinical veterinarian, to talk about management considerations for an aging population of chimpanzees. Their presentation will touch on considerations in healthcare programs, enclosure enhancements, positive reinforcement training, and the veterinary and behavioral management interface. And as they speak, feel free to post questions in the chat. We'll have time for Q&A at the end of the hour, and we'll hit on as many of your questions as possible. So with that, thank you for being here, and take it away, Dr. Jackson and Dr. Coleman.
All right. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Andy. Again, I'm Dr. J or Dr. Jackson. I'm here with Dr. Coleman, and we look forward to working together to present to you all today the management considerations for an aging population. We're going to be speaking specifically about the captive chimpanzee population and their overall health and well-being, with that including a variety of different things. So we hope that we can do something that is going to help you all at your facilities. All right. Let's see if I can get it to advance. All right, but first I want to give you a little bit of an overview about Chimp Haven. We're located outside of Shreveport, Louisiana. We have a little under 300 chimpanzees, making us the largest chimpanzee sanctuary in the world. We have taken in hundreds of chimpanzees into the sanctuary setting, and our overall mission is to provide them with the healthy and happy lives that they deserve in the life of retirement. So here's a little bit about our chimp demographics. Our youngest resident is 8 years old. Our oldest resident is 65, with our average age coming in at about 35 years of age. So that is considered geriatric, so which makes this talk today really essential as to what we can do to prepare for those individuals within that age range. At Chimp Haven, our mantra is to keep them into large, socially complex groups, with our smallest group being 2 chimpanzees. And that is truly due to, it houses one of our 65-year-olds, and that group has dwindled down due to natural attrition. And so we're looking forward to advancing that group size when we get new individuals in that would fit well with those aged or geriatric chimps. Our largest group is currently 19, and our average group size is about 10. All right, so here's an aerial view of our facilities. Our smallest outdoor enclosure encompasses what's known as a courtyard. And you can see here our forested habitats with which we're known. It's going to take me into something that's really important, and that's facility design. So at Chimp Haven's inception, as you all know, chimpanzees are a gregarious species. They're known for ambulation and brachiation. So space, and more space was our initial thought process in getting these individuals getting enclosures designed for facilities. But there needed to be considerations that came into place as our population began to age. So I'm going to show you some of our varied enclosures and some of the modifications and changes that we've made over time in order to better facilitate the changes that we're seeing with the chimpanzees, whether that's cognitively or whether that's physically due to arthritis or some of the sensory changes that come along with the aging process. So here to the left, you can see one of our newer enclosure or newer builds that incorporates a chute system. Chimp Haven is fortunate to have that chute system throughout many of the facilities. That is really essential when you think about the chimpanzees and our ability to be able to relocate them and move them based on the individual needs. So let's say that I have an individual that's in an outdoor enclosure. I'm concerned about, their safety with some of the heights which we'll talk about a little bit later. Having the chute system just gives us more opportunities to change the housing for the individuals within each group. Next, we have what's known as our golden corral. And as you can see, I'm going from left to right. I'm sorry, I didn't disclose that. On the right, you see our golden corral. You see it has a lot of vertical space, but also a lot of horizontal space. And we try to accommodate the different and varying stages of life by having a lot of ramps so that the individuals can utilize that space. Next to it, we have what's known as the apartment. And an apartment is one of our newer builds when we realized that we had individuals that either had musculoskeletal changes where we wanted to give them cage rest, but still wanted to afford them the opportunity to have outdoor exposure. And to the right, we have our play yards, which really gives us a lot of horizontal space for the individuals to commute back and forth between the outdoor enclosures. You see at the bottom left is where we have our habitats. All of our habitats have moat systems. They are really beautiful, but when you think about the aging process and potentially loss of vision as an individual ages, it can pose a risk to those individuals. And so there have been instances where we've started to see those visual deficits, and we've had to get creative with getting those individuals out of the habitat and into some of the varying enclosures that you've seen pictured above. And to the very right of this, you'll see what's our most new infrastructure, where our golden oldies, and that's that group of 2 individuals, our oldest chimpanzees, are housed, where we change the internal structures so that they're a little lower to the ground. They have stairs, and so that those individuals have the ability to climb and still utilize the space that's within that enclosure. All right, so enclosure enhancement. So as I talked about, we have decided that we needed to make some changes to be able to better fit the needs of our aging population due to those arthritic changes that we see over time, and then due to some of those sensory deficits, whether that's visual loss or just inability to utilize the space appropriately. So we have to take into considerations height, the environmental complexity. It's really important that we are still challenging some of our aging individuals cognitively in order to keep that motor function going. And then we provide environmental enrichment to promote activity. If you see here, centered in the middle, we have incorporated some enclosure enhancements that are against the mesh to promote that physical activity to keep some of our aged and/or geriatric and/or overweight individuals moving up and moving. All right, so here are some other considerations for enclosure enhancements. We are very lucky to have a full-time maintenance staff that is willing to do just about anything that we ask them to do to meet the needs of our changing population. And so we incorporate ramps and platforms. Most of our geriatric animals, due to arthritic changes, may not have the ability to utilize the vertical height that we have. So we want to make sure that they can still use a lot of the infrastructure that is within their outdoor enclosures by placing those handholds and allowing them the ability to continue to ambulate and/or stay out of the way if there is some sort of social disagreement that they don't need to be a part of, but still continue to engage within the group setting. Incorporating non-slip flooring, most of these individuals will become less active. So we want to ensure activity that is safe for them, movement that is safe for them, but also utilizing different substrates, whether that's hay, whether that's straw, whether that's wood wool, in order to prevent ulcer formation due to that reduction in activity level. We want to ensure elevated rest areas. Most of our elderly chimps enjoy to be high up but that's so that they can still interact with their group, but they can still see exactly what's going on without directly being in the midst of any sort of upheaval that can occur at any point. And then, as you all know, due to the aging process, those individuals become immune compromised and or more sensitive to temperature extremes. So we want to ensure that we're providing shelter and protection from the elements during those winter and summer months. All right, Dr. Coleman, you're up.
All right, so I'm going to be talking about veterinary care and nutrition. And as we know, as chimpanzees age, their dietary needs and medical care can change and require specialized attention. So what we like to look at during our geriatric anesthesia protocols are going to be 4 things, which is going to be pre-anesthesia assessment, age-specific dosing, monitoring during anesthesia, and recovery and aftercare. So as chimpanzees age, they become more susceptible to, various disease processes such as arthritis, dental disease, and cognitive decline. Anesthesia use in the aging chimpanzee requires us to be very cautious with them as they're older, as they age, because that, as they age, their metabolic rates tend to change. The organ function diminishes, and that just can create potential for complications. So previous to doing our anesthesia, we like to monitor them thoroughly. And it is very important that we do that during their examination processes prior to them going up under anesthesia. This includes comprehensive blood work, urinalysis, and cardiac evaluations to assess the chimpanzee's overall health and to detect any health problems that we potentially may find that could potentially present as a potential complication during the anesthetic process. As we look at the chimpanzees' age, we also like to look at their dosage that we use with them during their anesthesia protocols. Sometimes it is important that we recognize that their organs don't function quite as normal as a more younger chimpanzee would. So making assumptions that are necessary in order to make sure that we adjust the dosages that should be carefully tailored for the chimpanzee's weight, their health status, and their age. And slow gradual induction is also very important. We try to make sure that we're taking our time with those aged chimpanzees and recovering them throughout the anesthesia process, and just making sure that we're making sure that they're recovering slowly, and that we take advantage of the time that's required for our older chimps. Monitoring during anesthesia, our elderly chimpanzees need constant monitoring during the monitoring process for distress complications. We monitor parameters such as their heart rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, and body temperature. Those are things that we continuously look at during that procedure. And additionally, we like to make sure that we have IV access in case there is need for IV fluids and or medications during the anesthetic procedure. We also look at recovery and the aftercare very closely with the older chimpanzees. We like to make sure, like I said, there's a potential for them to have a longer recovery period. A lot of that has to do with their slower metabolisms. And we carefully monitor them and try to make sure that we have them in a recovery space that is calm and quiet for them to be able to have an easy recovery process. All right, so nutrition and veterinary care. We look at their diets very closely. Older chimpanzees may experience changes in appetite or difficulty chewing. Their diet should be tailored to include soft foods or softer foods that are more palatable to them and have additional nutrition, to help to maintain their muscle mass and their bone health and immune functions. Foods that support joint health, such as those with omega-3 fatty acids and glucosamines, are also very beneficial with our older chimpanzees. When it comes to looking at their nutrition with regard to health monitoring, we try to do routine veterinary care and should be adapted to monitor their age-related issues, including their joint problems, anything like vision loss or hearing loss, and dental health. We use blood tests, radiographs, and regular physical exams. They become very important as we continue to look at our aging chimpanzees and hopefully to do early detection in illnesses that they may acquire over time. Pain management is going to also be very important with our older chimpanzee populations, as they are prone to chronic pain, particularly those with age-related conditions like arthritis. Managing pain preemptively with analgesics and anti-inflammatories is very prevalent here at Chimp Haven. And so providing post-operative pain relief and ensuring that the chimpanzees are comfortable is also very important as well.
All right, so positive reinforcement training. So as you can imagine, this is essential to an aging population because we want, Dr. Coleman just talked to you all about some of the risks that are associated with the anesthetic process. So the more diagnostics that we can get for those advanced medical behaviors in an awake animal, the better. And so we would like to utilize this to maintain cognitive function, but at the same time to encourage physical exercise, relationship building between the trainer and the individual, which helps to just give a better overall strong bonded relationship to get the outcomes that we desire long term. All right, so who's involved in our positive reinforcement training program? That's going to be everybody. So we have members from the veterinary, behavior, and husbandry departments that will participate in our program, which gives us all hands on deck mentality. That's more trainers that we can have at the drop of a dime to get the behaviors that we may want out of the chimpanzees. And knowing that Chimp Haven is home, this is going to be a lifelong process. Having individuals that are starting to desensitize these chimpanzees to these advanced medical behaviors that we may need over time as these individuals age is essential. So positive reinforcement training, one, is essential to me from the veterinary perspective because it allows the chimpanzees to play a part in their healthcare. At Chimp Haven, we love to provide them with choices, and it's also a choice for them to participate in their healthcare. If you see pictures to the right, we have what's known as our interactive room. In that interactive room, you can see a scale that's recessed in the floor. That scale allows us to get awake body weights at any time point at which an individual is shifted into that space. And you'll also see what we call the blood sleeve, and that blood sleeve will allow us to be able to get awake venipuncture in individuals. We can also take that end cap off to do some of the more advanced behaviors that we're going to show you a little bit later to get ECG readings and even blood pressure readings in an awake animal. And so this is going to be essential without the need for an anesthetic to be able to get the diagnostics for us to continue to monitor the chimpanzees long term. All right, so PRT can also be used in routines. I talked to you guys a little bit earlier about the importance of having a variety of different enclosures and utilizing the chute system to move individuals between buildings. And I'm just going to show you how PRT can be used to get one group of chimpanzees from one building to the other, and what we call one of our Golden Gate Bridge. It's pretty tall. So we're talking about geriatric animals. This would not necessarily be ideal for those individuals because they cannot climb, but it would be essential for us to be able to get group mates or other groups into other areas to provide alternatives for those geriatric chimps that may be having some of the arthritic changes. And so here we're going to see a group that's moving from what we call building B to building C via that sky bridge. All right, next. So we have PRT for emergency recall training. So dealing with an aged population, there is the risk of sudden cardiac event or sudden incident or emergency incident that can occur where we may need to get individuals within that social group out of the space for us to render veterinary interventions. And in this specific instance, I apologize in advance, there is no sound. But you will see visually what we do in one of our social groupings that houses a chimpanzee that cannot hear. So we do have a chimpanzee named Sheena. She is deaf due to a double ear ablation. She was prone to placing foreign bodies in her ear. And so we performed a double ear ablation, which of course affected the ear canal and the ability to hear. So we utilize that orange Frisbee that you see pictured to the left. And when the individuals see that orange Frisbee or she sees that orange Frisbee, we will use the sound cue for the other individuals and she knows to go indoors. So you're going to see the chimpanzees without sound halt when they hear that sound and they're going to go indoors. And this would be essential, again, in an instance where veterinary staff needs to enter an enclosure. enclosure for an emergency procedure. All right. All right, so again, weight monitoring. As you all saw in the interactive room, we can utilize the recess scale to get weights. Here we're going to see Onyx, who is one of our youngsters, and that we start desensitizing them pretty early on in the event that we're going to need these sorts of behaviors later on in life. And so you're going to see Onyx working to get used to being on that scale utilizing a laser pointer. And as you can see, she did outsmart her trainer there by keeping her body off of the scale, but we are still trying to get her, again, desensitized to touching the scale with hopes that it would advance to her actually putting her body on that scale so that we can get body weights. All right, next up we have Crystal. Again, PRT can be used for mobility and exercise. As we talked about with an aging population, we have the risk, right, due to obesity, potential implications for diabetes and other comorbidities outside of the arthritis and the pain management that we talked about. So we want to keep the chimps as active and mobile as possible. And Crystal is one of our overweight chimpanzees that was at risk for diabetes, in which we were able to utilize this positive reinforcement training to keep her active so that we were able to get her body weight into an acceptable range so that we did not have to implement pharmaceutical interventions. So Crystal is trained that when she hears her music, that she has to come and target at the end of the play yard as fast as she can. So this is a run for Crystal. And then she's targets. And through this program, we were able to get her down 60 pounds.
And she looks wonderful.
All right, Coleman, you're up with advanced medical behaviors.
All right. So we like to use advanced medical behaviors here at Chimp Haven. As you can understand, with age comes the potential for organ dysfunction and comorbidities. So advanced medical behaviors serve a very viable option for health monitoring and intervention here. As far as like pain management, laser therapy has proven to be very important for me as a clinical vet here at Chimp Haven. I use it very often with our chimpanzees that have osteoarthritis or wounds. And it has helped drastically to improve healing times, and just the patients tend to do very well. So we implement laser therapy in conjunction with oral pain management to optimize both resolution of their inflammation and pain, and to improve and or reduce healing time with wounds. Usage of advanced medical behaviors in this way has drastically improved our clinical outcomes with our cases within our aging population. They actually do really well with it as well with the trainers.
All right, and I'll just kind of jump in there and say that we script it out. So just as we would write a prescription, let's say for an NSAID with an individual that's on pain management, we will script this out and then get with the trainer as to the level of laser therapy, duration, frequency, just like we would a pharmaceutical. So here we're going to see Rebecca performing laser therapy on one of our chimpanzees that has osteoarthritis TED. All right, so cardiac health. I don't remember.
I got you. So for cardiac health, this is one of our newer advanced medical behaviors that we offer here at Chimp Haven. The ability to obtain awake EKG readings from our chimpanzee population allows us the opportunity to assess the cardiac health of the chimpanzee without the added stress of sedation. The benefits are twofold: elimination of anesthetic risks and the ability to acquire pertinent diagnostic readings that aid with overall management of the cardiac health of that particular chimpanzee. And so, as you can see on the picture, one of our chimps, they basically put two of their fingers onto the cardia and they hold for a period of time until a good reading. Then what happens is the behavior staff will send that reading over to us for us to assess it. We are working on getting really good diagnostic readouts. Some of them are really great and some of them are not, but the training is invaluable as we get our population up to speed on that. It's just really great not to have to sedate our patients that have cardiac disease.
And I will say that if you've ever seen the Cardio Mobile, you'll see the modifications that our maintenance team has made to the device. One of the things that we did see is that we were getting a lot of interference just because of the metal. And so we were able to create the little a piece of equipment that you see there that allows the Cardio Mobile to sit inside of it with the wooden piece for the chimps to reach through that eliminates the electricity that we were getting from the metal on metal.
All right, so another valuable piece of diagnostic that we use is the PET map. That gives us the ability to obtain blood pressures and awake heart rates in our geriatric patients. Cage side is yet another vital usage of advanced medical behaviors that we offer here at Chimp Haven. The necessity to monitor our patients post anesthesia is also very important. So the PET map comes in very handy during that particular time phase of time when we're doing sedations with them. And throughout the year as well, we can use the PET map to manage disease processes such as hypertension and assistance with the use and just getting those readings throughout the year with the chimps.
All right, we're going to see Rebecca, who's our behaviorist, working with Roxanne. If I can get it, where to go? All right, physical therapy. So here you see pictured our veterinary technician, Jennifer Whitfield, that was working with one of our chimpanzees, Sparky. Sparky actually presented with transient hind limb lameness that progressed over time, at which point we were able to work with our maintenance staff to creatively come up with an alternative for a leg port. And so as you can see, we do a lot usually with the hands, with the arms, and this is the first time that we actually progressed to creation of a leg port in order for us to be able to do physical therapy with this individual, but also for us to do laser therapy on the ankle, on the foot, and potentially acupuncture. So we're going to show a little bit of that training session with Sparky. All right, and just this little bit of activity, the physical therapy really worked dramatically with this patient. And I'm going to show you after about 1 month of therapy, he was back to normal function and being the little troublemaker that he has be with his cage mates next door. All right. All right, so diabetes management, again, as individuals age, we talk about the comorbidities that occur due to just standard organ dysfunction. We do have individuals at Chimp Haven who are insulin-dependent diabetics, at which point we have to start desensitizing the individuals to blood draws, whether that's via, just via the blood glucose sticks. And so you're going to see me working with a patient. Her name is Penny, while still in her social group to be able to get that blood glucose reading, and then you'll see me follow it up based on that blood glucose reading with the amount of insulin that she's going to receive. So I give her the cue for foot. She gives me her toe. I'm cleaning it with alcohol. There's that stick. I get the bleb. And now I'm able to get the blood glucose reading. And again, I'd like to stress the importance that these individuals being able to acquire these sorts of behaviors while they're still in their social grouping helps not only the individual, but the cage mates see, right, exactly what's going on. And again, knowing that we have an aged population and the possibility of having to implement it with other individuals over time is likely. And so when they see these sorts of behaviors, they're rewarded for these sorts of interactions. They see it as a positive interaction that we potentially can get the same behaviors from the other individuals in the group. So next, now that I've got that blood glucose reading, you're going to see me, I've asked her for a leg and she's positioned herself for the insulin injection. All right, Coleman, you are up.
All right. So as you may kind of understand, it's very important for us to have a strong collaboration between the veterinarians and the behaviorists. This helps to maximize the animal's welfare and diversify animal care and the use programs to incorporate an interdisciplinary approach to how we deal with the psychological well-being and the physical health concerns of captive primates in the population that we have here at Chimp Haven. And so chimpanzees are highly social animals, and their economical well-being, emotional well-being, I apologize, is very important, as well as their physical health. And so aging chimpanzees may become more vulnerable to stress and depression or social isolation. And so we like to try to make sure that we're working well with our behavior department in order to be able to collaboratively work and make sure that we're approaching their care holistically. So managing group dynamics becomes very crucial in maintaining a stable social environment for the chimps, with careful monitoring of these groups and their dynamics to avoid aggression, which can occur with the older chimpanzee individuals because they just tend to be a little bit more vulnerable within those groups. And so we also look at their psychological enrichment as well. So physical enrichment, mental well-being is enhanced through various forms of social interaction. We try to make sure they have things like puzzles and problem solving within their groups, and sensory stimulation as well. Activities that involve the caregivers providing affection, grooming with them, and simply just sitting with the chimps can have positive effects on their emotional health. Our care staff here is very good about that. They not only take care of them from a husbandry standpoint, but also they do take their well-being mentally very seriously. And so we're really proud of the team that we have here and how they incorporate that in their day-to-day. We look at companion relationship as well. And some aging chimpanzees benefit from having a stable companion or close social bonds with other chimpanzees. And then also the caregivers can facilitate these relationships as well. All right, so monitoring metrics. As veterinarians, we play a crucial role in identifying the chimpanzees that are at risk and already have potential for being at risk for things like obesity, cardiovascular disease, and metabolic disorders. Once we identify these potential chimpanzees, what we do is we inform our behavior staff or our care staff, and then they go into monitoring those chimps closer. And so social monitoring systems, we do that through wound reporting, where we have a running list of the wounds that we have here with our chimpanzees that is reported over to our behaviorists and our behavior team, and those are put into a metric where that can then be facilitated out to our staff in order for them to be able to know exactly what's going on with the chimpanzees. This approach ensures that the staff continues to gather necessary diagnostics for monitoring while the chimpanzees are within their social groups. And we integrate that with the veterinary care and behavior training. We can proactively address any health issues that we see that arise with the chimpanzees. All right, integrated welfare reports. So those SMS and then the wound reportings, all those are welfare reports that then we pulled together, and these welfare reports may cover varying timeframes and aim to provide staff with a narrative and key takeaway points through the usage of maps, graphs, and individual comparisons. And so this just helps out with staff being able to understand exactly what's going on with the health of the chimp in relation to their behaviors within their social groups. All right, so long-term care and planning. Given the lifespan of chimpanzees, it is important to plan for their long-term care, especially as they transition into older age. So housing alternatives and end-of-life care. We like to take, the approach of looking at everything that goes into an aging chimp. So housing options are going to be important, palliative care when necessary, quality of life monitoring, and euthanasia decisions. So altered housing plans. Sometimes the chimpanzees, as they get older, unfortunately, they just can't navigate the larger play yards or the bigger corrals that we have them in. So some chimps may need to be relocated to quieter, less demanding environments as they age. Retirement habitats can be designed to provide lower levels of stimulation and stress, focusing more on comfort, safety, and individual care. We have actually started that with some of the structures here at Chimp Haven, where we've put in ramps because we do have some chimps who have some mobility issues, and so those are options. We like to look at the end of life care and take that very seriously, and just kind of considering the possibility of the need or decision for euthanasia or palliative care. We look at that holistically. The veterinary professionals, myself and Dr. J, we often consult with the behaviorists and the animal care staff to ensure that the chimpanzee's quality of life is primary when it comes to making those end-of-life decisions. All right, so in conclusion, we like to take a holistic approach when it comes to caring for an aging captive chimpanzee population, combining physical, emotional, and psychological care. By enhancing our enclosures, adapting medical protocols, focusing on positive reinforcement training, considering long-term care needs, caregivers can ensure that aging chimpanzees continue to thrive in a safe environment, rich environment. We here at Chimp Haven, we pride ourselves on being collaborative. We enjoy the work that we do here, and we hope that the complexities that are required to take care of these intellectual animals throughout the year continue to advance. All right.
Or if you guys have any questions, here are the emails for Dr. Coleman and I'll leave it up for a few minutes if you're going to jot it down, and then I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jackson and Dr. Coleman. That was an incredible presentation, and so cool to hear about all of the different approaches you take to care for the chimps there as they age. Just a question to get us started, and please, everyone, feel welcome to type any questions or comments you have in the chat, and I will share them, and we'll answer as many as we can. But just to start us off, what age do you consider a chimpanzee to be senior or geriatric?
So 35. 35 is going to be that age point at which we consider them geriatric, yes. Which is our average age at Chimp Haven. Yes.
Gotcha. And how long do they typically, live?
So that's going to vary whether they're in the wild or whether they're in captivity. As you know, in the wild, they don't live as long, and that's primarily because they have clinicians like Dr. Coleman and myself that are providing them with the care in captivity. So we're seeing them live well into their 60s and 70s in captivity due to these preventative care plans and these alternatives that we're having for maintaining mortality.
Gotcha. We have a comment from Andrew, said, "Hi, ladies, this was great." Oh, from Audra, sorry. Thank you, Audra. Well, while we're waiting for other questions, I have a question. What would you say has been one of your most challenging cases in terms of, coming up with a comprehensive plan of whether that's, a new type of PRT routine or new modifications to an enclosure? I'd love to hear a little bit more about one of the more challenging cases where you guys had to problem solve.
Oh, that's a good one.
Let me see. I can start. I have one right now. One that's currently taking a little bit longer to heal, but we have implemented advanced medical behaviors with this one. He has a wound that's just taken a little while to resolve. And he was pretty resistant in the beginning to come over and participate in laser therapy. But once we got him in an environment where he was more comfortable, he was able to, come over, present. Once he realized, okay, I'm going to get all of these treats if I participate. So that aided. And then also once we were able to get him with a social group that was more amenable to him receiving his care, things started to progress. And so right now he's still going through the laser therapy, but his wounds are starting to heal really great. And like I said, I think laser therapy is very imperative in a large amount of the wounds because we don't access them all the time for the wounds that they get. And so second intention is how we tend to manage a lot of the wounds unless there's infections or bone exposure. And so for him, it's been really good to be able to implement that advanced medical therapy, and our care staff and behavior team is doing a wonderful job with that.
And I probably have to second that sentiment. I think one of my cases would be Casey, who was the alpha male in the group, and he was experiencing some self-injurious behaviors due to a persistent staph infection. So we were dealing with wounding that was being inflicted by self. But then there were some changes in the social hierarchy that also impacted, right, his rate and degree of wounding. And so it really took all of us putting our brains together, right? We were intervening from a pharmaceutical standpoint, but we were also intervening from the behavioral standpoint with, training the chimps to station and allowing for his laser therapy. And it was like really seeing everyone come together to provide him with the diffuse care that was going to be necessary, and we were able to get in front of it. He was able to remain as alpha, even though those betas were trying to get him out of rank, right, during his healing process. But I think that would be one of the more pertinent cases because it was difficult. It was a pre-existing condition. He was a picker before he came to Chimp Haven, and actually getting a treatment protocol that worked for him, where he was able to be sustainable within a social group.
Great. Those are amazing examples. Thank you both. We have lots of questions now, so I'll start reading some of them off. From Brianne Sear, we have, how often do you do routine physicals, particularly for your geriatric chimps?
All right. So I would say that we don't stop doing physical examinations at the standard interval. And as of last year, we changed our interval. All of our chimpanzees used to get annual physical examinations. And so every chimp was seeing us unless they were over the age of 50 each year. We realized after doing analysis of other facilities that rate and just trying to keep up with a population of about 300, it started to get pretty difficult. That now we do every other year protocol for physical examinations. So anyone that's under the age of 50 will get a physical examination. Those that are over the age of 50 are going to be on an as needed basis. And we really target the positive reinforcement training program in order to be able to get those awake diagnostics to ensure overall medical management of those individuals.
Great. Next question is from Claude. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Does the PetMap device gain blood pressure info just from a finger cuff?
So we've actually been we will get blood pressure readings. And so what we have been doing is coupling that PetMap reading during our standard physical examination in an anesthetized animal to ensure that we're getting diagnostics right that are comparable. And we are seeing a little bit of a variation in the data that we're receiving. So I wouldn't say it's a 100%, but it does get us in the ballpark, and we are able to get that just from the finger cuff.
Great. Thank you. So from Aaron Lozer, do you use necropsy results to further direct care?
Hey, Erin, good to hear from you. So she's a previous employee of Chimp Haven. We do. I mean, so any sort of diagnostic information that we get, it's going to better inform us on the care that we receive. Every chimpanzee at Chimp Haven will receive a necropsy performed by Dr. Coleman or myself at death. And if there is anything that we didn't see, doing gross pathology that comes with the histopath, we will supplement that information, not only for the individual's record, but also for staff as we're making decisions for other individuals long-term.
Great. And then from Athena, do you come across any obstacles when working with labs to release their primates into your care?
You want me to take this? How you want to? You want me to take this one? I think the process has gotten a lot better. And so, I think everyone is under the understanding that the chimpanzees have to be relocated to Chimp Haven as a national chimpanzee sanctuary. And so I can say that I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with the staffing at the sending institutions well in advance of the chimpanzees actually making the course or the route to Chimp Haven. And so that helps with trust building, that helps with information sharing, and that helps for each of us to be able to make the best decisions, informed decisions for the chimps on the sending in and getting them safely integrated into the population at Chimp Haven. And we afford even the sending institution staff the opportunity to come and help us as the individuals transition while they're still within that quarantine phase. And so I think, it's been years and years of a process, but I do feel like we have streamlined that process where it's the best that it could ever be.
That's great. All right. Sadie says, excellent presentation. Thank you. Erica Fleury says, so informative. Hi, Erica. So Erin asked another question. She said, sorry if I missed it, but are you doing blood draws with PRT? Casey Hart.
Yes, she remembers Casey. Yes. So again, we are at the discretion of the chimpanzee and what the chimpanzee allows us to do. But we do now have the interactive rooms, Erin, in every one of our animal areas where the chimpanzees can sit and train in those spaces, and we have gotten awake venipuncture.
All right. Next question is from Sadie. How do you deal with hormonal issues and breeding issues on a daily basis?
So all of our chimpanzees are maintained on oral contraceptives. And every male, when they make their way to Chimp Haven, has to undergo a vasectomy procedure by myself or Dr. Coleman while in quarantine facility. So what we found a while back after some oops babies, something something wasn't quite working. I really thought initially that it was a human error. At which point I realized it wasn't a human error. Chimps really just have a level of resiliency that we're not seeing in other primates, i.e. humans. So whereas the regrowth rate in humans is less than 1%, in the chimpanzee, we're seeing a regrowth of the vas deferens at about an 86% rate. And so that's why all of our females are maintained on oral contraception, which does impact, right, their swelling, and it impacts then their behavior while in the social setting. But we have been unable to make a decision to completely stop the oral contraceptives despite us performing the new procedure on the chimpanzee, which we've termed the tuck, just because that 86% rate is just a little too high for us to feel confident in taking the risk of completely stopping the oral medications in the females.
All right, next question from Katie Cronin. She said, thank you for the informative presentation. I'm curious to hear how you train for speedy responses. For example, the overweight chimpanzee who moved quickly to target when her music played for the emergency recall. What is the training plan to increase speed of response generally?
So it's a step-by-step process, right? So it's like whenever you're building a behavior, you start targeting very close to your desired outcome. And so in Crystal's case, right, we started very close to where she would come out to an enclosure, click, right? And then we reinforce it. Usually, as you can see, she's an overweight girl. So she is highly food motivated. So we can use either items that are approved by the veterinarian. That's usually some juice or the really small piece of fruit. And then we advance it. And then we do that with her. And it's usually an activity for the trainer as well, because that trainer is moving along with them in order to get them to a rate at a speed at which it's we're comfortable with. Now, when we talk about the use of the training sound, and like I said, it could be sound or it could be a visual cue for an emergency situation, it builds pretty much the same, and it's done at any time period, right? And so sometimes care staff, they're like, all right, we're going to do some training, and they'll it's a cowbell, and they'll ring the cowbell, and they'll time it to see how quickly the chimps come in, and they'll continue to keep record of that until we can get it at a realm that's efficient for us, that we feel efficient for, in knowing that we can safely get to an animal if it's necessary.
Great. Lots of thank yous and great presentation comments. From Andrew, do you take in other primates such as monkeys or gorillas and other animals?
Nope. So we're strictly chimpanzees right now. We've got a couple of barn cats, but other than that, it's strictly chimps.
Thank you. All right. And then from Brienne, have you used any continuous glucose monitors for any of your diabetic residents, particularly if they are resistant to blood draws?
So no, we have not gotten to the point of use of loop recorders. I have utilized them at other facilities while I was still a student, but we have not utilized them at Chimp Haven as of yet.
Great. Another one from Aaron. How are you treating arthritis? What meds and supplements are you using? And are you using laser therapy as well?
You want to take that one, Coleman?
Sure. There's a large amount of carprofen. Cosamin, we use laser therapy in conjunction with some of them who are a little bit more arthritic than others. Let's see, we incorporate some opioids as well. So tramadol is used as well. And then I like to throw in gabapentin. I've seen that synergistically carprofen and gabapentin has improved some of the chimps that I have in my phase. And so I use that synergistically together very often.
Great.
So it varies, Aaron. We'll start with the least amount of therapy and then it kind of amps up. We'll incorporate laser therapy in addition to the pharmaceuticals in those cases where we need to get, medical management under control. But they seem to respond extremely well. I mean, I have to agree with Dr. Coleman to therapeutic interventions that we utilize.
Great. Next question is from Andrew. Do you work with Jane Goodall, as she has done extensive work with chimps?
So I wish I could say I work with Jane Goodall. I have had the opportunity to meet her when she was at Chimp Haven, but outside of those interactions at facility, we have not had any other collaborative efforts.
So Jane Goodall has also, supported NAPSA's work just in kind of like endorsing our work and that kind of thing. But she usually will kind of be supportive of the chimp sanctuaries. So
Absolutely.
It's always great when she can visit.
Yes.
All right. Well, I don't see any other questions yet. We can give people maybe another minute, but lots and lots of thank yous and comments about the presentation being really wonderful. And I fully agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and again, for everyone who's here, if you want to let people know about this webinar, you can direct people to watch after it ends. It'll live on NAPSA's event page, so anyone can watch it anytime. So please do let your friends know, and it's always here, as well as all of our other past NAPSA Presents webinars. So thank you both so much. I don't see any other questions, so I guess we can wrap it up. It was wonderful to have you here today, and we really appreciate it so much.
All right. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.